Hello, folks. Welcome in. Uh, what in the hell? I just heard double for some reason. Uh, I sit there. I do audio checks. I make sure everything is well. Hello, folks. I am the Gothic Storyteller. Welcome to Throwback Cinema. How is your days all going? We see some new faces in the chat for the very first time. I hope Tizzy and Jessica are doing well. Um, Today we have quite an interesting topic at hand. We obviously have a few other things to kind of go through. If you followed me actually on my socials, then you'll kind of sit there and know maybe a little bit of what we're gonna follow here today. I mean by the title itself, short film support group. Uh, so what is that? Well, today, folks, we are gonna get into the discussion about the one thing that kind of does generally confuse me about social media in an aspect with my love of cinema is that where are the short films? Where are the short films out there and everything? It definitely feels like you have to be a part of a group just to kind of find your loophole of, you know, these short films and everything. Some that, you know, obviously the people who made them, social media wasn't around. So it's like, well, then where do you find these? Where do you find these short films? Who uploads these? Is there actually an actual site that you can go to watch these? Because like obviously some stuff that are Oscar nominated, you may find them on the streaming service. But before we jump into all that, we are going to jump into our first topic of today. And funny enough, I actually just got done reading the screenplay to this. I really wanted to finish the screenplay reading of this. So like these are my current thoughts on John Carpenter's Vampires. So this has been a film that I feel a little bit indifferent because I'm not really a James Woods fan, but I'm a John Carpenter fan. And there's a lot of other actors that are in this film that I am fans of. I am fan of, I think it is Daniel Baldwin. I believe so. I know it's not Alec, but it's Daniel, if I remember correctly. Um, yeah, the John Carpenter's Vampires was, it has at least three credits, I believe, to their name. I'm actually trying to sit there and quickly pull this up for you. Well, it won't be here on the screen, but pulled up so I can at least sit there and give you guys. Oh, I think I actually saw four names. Holy shit. Nope. Okay, so it's three. So John Carpenter's Vampires, which was actually based off of a actual novel, and they just, because it was John Carpenter, they're like, let's just throw his name on there. I think he actually gets like a royalty credit. It's not just a negotiation in his director's contract that it'd be John Carpenter's, you know, name or whatever, but like, you know, it's kind of that. So it was written by Don Jacoby, Dan Mazur, and John Carpenter. Those are the three names. I strangely enough, this is weird because I remember apparently reading the revised Pink edition, which was quote unquote published April 29th of 1997. It makes no sense because later on in the script, I find blue pages in it. And I'm all like, wait. I was reading pink pages. What happened to the pink pages? Because if you guys are not clued in, when there is like another draft of the script, like a polish or whatever, looking for a bit, but I'm here, brother. Thank you so much, Krypton. I appreciate you so much. But when there is kind of like a new draft during the production, usually the first draft is white, and then it goes into these certain color coded, you know, color coded things. And I've always messed them up. I could never remember. I think I do always remember blue was always number two. So you had the blue draft, and then apparently there's pink. I can never remember and of course I've gone to school for this, folks, but like I didn't go to film school to want to be a producer, even though technically I see now years later that my professors were right, and maybe I should have paid a little bit more attention in the production aspects of what I was learning. But either way, so we have our writers here: Don Jacob, Dan Mazur, and John Carpenter. And you can definitely tell while reading this this uh I don't even want to call it now a full draft, because since I now found out that there are blue pages and pink pages both together, it is just like a screenplay. It's probably whatever they went and they actually shot with. Um, so you could definitely tell when a different writer was taking over. What did they interject in their things? And the thing is I don't know who wrote some of these really cheesy lines. Um, they're so cheesy I can't even really sit there and tell you what they are, because they're not really that good kind of cheesy. It's not like early Carpenter where, even though this was not in the script, but it was implemented by Roddy Piper, but I am here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I am all out of bubblegum. There's no lines like that. It's very weird. First, let me actually just try to sit there and tell you guys what is John Carpenter's Vampires. So John Carpenter's Vampires is a story about these vampire hunters who, while out doing their usual thing, they had found a nest with no master, and find out that after they had cleared this nest of vampires, angered the master, that the master is also in search of a ancient relic that was used in the creation of the very first vampire, and he plans to use this relic so that he may be able to walk into the sunlight and not have any of the ailments or anything. The vampires in this are a bit, they don't follow the usual trend of your typical like garlic, crosses, holy water. That does nothing to them. It's mostly sunlight gets them. They are susceptible to some pain. Gunshots can kind of really only like stop them for like a blink second. Mostly for the, I think I read it, they call them gooners. They legit called them gooners in the script. So that is your breed that come from the master vampires. They're not quite as powerful, but still, you like, I think the slayers in this, they just use it as goons, but to make it plural, instead of saying the word gooners. And I was like, this was written before that term was used what it is today, folks. But either way, I don't want to shit on this movie, even though reading the script does not really make me excited to watch the movie. But I do want to watch the movie. I do want to sit there see maybe what was ad-lib, because obviously John Carpenter's Vampires lead in that film. Did I accidentally hit? Yeah, I did hit caps lock. James Wood. James Wood is known for his ad-lib. He is known for ad-libbing. The film does star Daniel Baldwin. I knew that I had that right. Cheryl Lee as Katrina, the prostitute that gets bit by the film's master vampire Valak, played by Thomas Ian Griffin. She has like a psychic connection that they actually use it very, very well. There are moments though early in the script where it definitely just feels like they're just beating this female character, and it's almost like they're beating her into submission so that she'll follow the slayers. It's not really good. It's a little icky, but I think I'm being a little too what's the word, on the nose, picky about it. Tim, I want to say it's Gwynny, plays Father Adam Gutio. Maximilian Schell as Cardinal Abba. I'm actually trying to sit there and look at some of this. They had Kiri Hiroyuki Tagawa as David Dio. That is not the guy I imagine Dio, because I think most of the Slayers, the way how they describe them in the script, they seem like 80s pro wrestlers. They have a real ego, like one of them. Like, you would think that, the leader, John Crow, was, I don't know, maybe but a weird, absurdly amalgamation of a lot of Carpenter's lead action stars, minus quite a lot of the charm. I really don't like the lead character in this. The beginning, he kind of has like this very seriousness about him, but the more you get into it, he's not a real interesting character. Like, to him, he has a job. We're watching a character perform his job. It's to hunt vampires. There's nothing else really more to that character. So I don't know if James Woods really kind of adds any more charisma or character. Uh, I'm very hesitant on James Woods. I'm very, very hesitant on James Woods. I don't think he's a terrible actor, but there are just some roles of his I'm just not a fan of. I do, though, still need to see him in Videodrome. I think that's like one of the films of his that criminally I have not seen. I have seen him in the bit of Quitters Incorporated for the Quicksilver Highway anthology film in the 90s, which that was a mixture of Stephen King and Clive Barker stories. I think it was 2 Stephen King stories and a Clive Barker story. Quitters Incorporate, like, I think James Woods actually did really, really good. He played a really good, like, it's this, I believe he was a father as well, but like a husband who's trying to quit smoking. And then there's this company that goes to extreme lengths that tortures his wife and, I believe, child. And they're not doing it to be malicious. They're doing it because they want to show that your smoking is actually very harmful. The harmful part is that we are harming your family, so you better stop. And each time he breaks a kind of like a strike or whatever, there is an obscene penance he must take, and it's not physically towards him, but it's towards his family. I think James Woods was really, really good playing that character. But outside of that, like, I'm just not a James Woods guy. This script was fun enough that there are, because I gotta talk about some positives. I gotta talk about some positives. I don't want to shit on this, because one of the things I actually really, really enjoy about the screenplay about this movie is a lot of the works between when Valak has bitten Katrina and the Slayers need him, or need her to kind of find him, because they have a bit of a psychic link, and they're only on so much time because they have 5 days before Katrina turns. And there is this nice, like, where it actually shows that Valak is actually performing some whatever obscene attack, like, on a character. Katrina can see it, and in the screenplay they switch back and forth between the POVs and then what Valak is actually doing really, really smoothly. Sometimes I feel like whenever it gets super, super choppy, of all, like, Valak does this and then switch back to the reaction, because in a sense it's almost like a reaction. Now we're almost, in a sense, in screenplay, getting a reaction shot of how Katrina is trying to tell the Slayers this is what she's seeing, but she doesn't really quite fully understand, because the trance kind of takes her out. She's like in this weird headspace, but she's trying to help them because she doesn't want to be a vampire. They want to stop this before this happens. And it's actually done very, very well. And a screenplay that I have read that I really absolutely hate that is Star Wars: A New Hope. There is a scene right towards the end when it's doing the Death Star battle, and it, for some unnecessary reason, decided to switch back and forth quite literally. And I don't think it was a shooting script that I was reading either. I think it was like an actual screenplay that George Lucas had wrote. And it would switch back and forth to all these different pilots. And to me, it's like, I feel like some of this could have just been like an intercom, like their voice, but through intercom, to save on just the amount of scene shot. And then you could have probably taken that apart in the shooting script. But what I believe, I think I was not reading then, was not a shooting script. Is the Valak demon what the demon Valak is based on? So no, a lot of, like, I mean, a lot of these characters, Daniel Baldwin plays Anthony Montoya, James Wood plays Jack Crow, Cheryl Lee plays Katrina, Thomas Ian Griffin plays Jan Valak. It's not spelt like Valak as in like that with 2 ways. It's Valek. So it's like these kind of like weird, they're supposed to be very, like, I feel like a lot of the last names were either picked out of Westerns or just picked out because this vampire is supposed to be century old. And so they did kind of look possibly through maybe a demonologist book and be like, let's try to find something that seems synonymous with vampire, Valak, let's go there because he's a master vampire. So it's not based on the Conjuring series, demon Valak, which um I don't want to sit there and say I don't think that's an actual demon, because I do believe that there is a classic ghost story ebook that I have that actually is called Valak. Um, but I think that's kind of like more almost like in the layers of the Arabian Nights stories. So it's more of that. The Master Vampire Valak. It's not related to the demon. It's just the name. Which I actually do. I actually like that. I like that name. I think that's an interesting vampire name. I kind of wish that we got back to classic, like almost dead language, or just the early names, the surnames or whatever in the beginning times and everything. Because like now, when you think of vampires, you got Edward. I'm sorry, Edward the Vampire does not fucking scare me. It reminds me of the movie. Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank. Hoodwink, where the evil bunny rabbit tells his evil goon, he's like, "Can you just change your name, Keith? It doesn't really sound evil." And I'm all like, "Oh no, look out for Keith!" And it's hilarious, but I don't like the name. Every time I hear that name, I see the nun. Well, yeah. So I think for most modern audiences, probably listening to us now, you are gonna be thinking of Bonnie Aaron's portrayal of that demon in that franchise, which is fair. That film and that actress have made that name now iconic with their thing. Whereas this overall, I feel like what I've read here, that John had pretty much done the same thing. I think a few years later when he would do, I think Ghost from Mars. I believe it's that, or I think John did Ghost from Mars before this. I am actually trying to check, my sources here, for that. But okay, yeah, Ghost from Mars came out in 2001, so that came out 3 years later. Uh, and I kind of felt like that was just vampires all over again, but cannibalistic individuals that are inhabited by the actual spirits of the Martians. Which to me, I don't know. After reading the script, I actually kind of sit there thinking Ghost of Mars is actually a far more gnarly film, because I do like it that there is these entities of these Martians going into the bodies of these people who are colonizing the planet. And it's kind of like almost like an Indian burial ground ish story. It's very much a siege film, but it feels like a John Ford film. Um, for those that don't know, John Ford was a director that did quite a bit of John Wayne's Western films. Uh, the big one was Stagecoach, which he did with a young John Wayne. But yeah, no, I don't know. Reading this script, I remember I think I had a little bit more of a banging time with Ghost of Mars. But I want to give vampires a try. I definitely know at this era in time, John Carpenter was struggling um, with his films. Pretty much Village of the Damned. I actually like the remake. In the Mouth of Madness, probably most would probably look at maybe that was his last great film. He did The Ward back in 2010, and it's a mixed bag towards the end of Carpenter's actual directing. It is a mixed bag, but I still love the director, and I still look up to that director, because a lot of when I was recording or in doing my very first short film, as much as what I wanted to sit there and do a homage to Edgar Allan Poe and Hammer films, I also wanted to sit there and do something John Carpenter-ish, because I just love his style of directing. But we are going to move on here because we only have so much time. We only have so much time. As much as I enjoyed our first episode being nearly an hour and a half on Monday, I would actually like to have these down to an hour. It's just easier to sit there and try to scan through and find clips. Short film spotlight. So if you guys have paid attention to the socials, I did actually sit there and post the first short film of many for this month and everything. And that was The Sandman from 1991. I absolutely love The Sandman. It is a wonderful, nice little, quick in and out of this magical world. And if some of this animation that we have here on the screen, some of the art is very reminiscent, it is because the creator of this, I was gonna say Matt Berry. It is not Matt Berry. Um, but it is the creator of this, as I scramble to look for it. Paul Berry, that's what his name is. Paul Berry worked on A Nightmare Before Christmas. There is a lot in the human character, and even in the creature design. Barry has a very interesting look when it comes to crafting his world. And I believe this is under 10 minutes. It's an under 10-minute film. It was nominated at the Oscars back in the 90s. I don't know if specifically 91, maybe it was 92 for the Academy Awards. But again, I love it. It's steeped in German expressionism. You can sit there and find it right now on my socials, which is pretty much Instagram and YouTube, because TikTok is being very strict with I guess what it considers its our standards and practices. And believe it or not, I actually feel like I have not violated any of that. I just think something's going on over at TikTok where practically almost anything that I post practically gets taken down and I get a strike. I don't know. I ended up learning from one of my moderators from Twitch that it could be how I say things or specific words that are being triggered. And I was like, I am not speaking, I guess, in TikTok language just to appease TikTok. I don't not doing that to appease one specific social media platform. I'm gonna do me, and if they accept me, they accept me. That's as simple as that. There are actually two other short films that we are going to sit there and tackle this month that I also want to sit there and share with you guys. And the next one is The Maker, which will come out next Thursday. That little movie recommendation. I used to call them movie reviews. I feel like movie recommendation is my thing. I'm the movie recommendation guy. You need something to watch for the weekend, or maybe for that one night that maybe your favorite streamer isn't on, or maybe the YouTube channel that you're watching hasn't released a new video. I could sit there and, I can recommend you guys something to watch. And another one is The Maker, which I think, again, is another under 10-minute short film that tells the story of the titular maker right here. Is only given so much time to create his magnum opus, his masterpiece, something very beautiful and something that will live on after he passes. And so throughout this very intense but also very cathartic short and everything, he's creating another maker and everything. And throughout this process, as he's doing this, he is spending time with it and does realize that time is going short. And so it's also too, like, before this other maker even comes to life, it's more of he's also trying to teach it. And I think that's also something that maybe that speaks on parenting, about how we pass on our interests and hobbies to our children, and hopes that maybe they will pass that down to their children, and so on and so on. We're weird creatures like that. But it's very like on the go from the beginning. It's charming, it's wonderful, it's a little heartbreaking. That's not me actually trying to cry. I'm just trying to battle not being sick. But despite the looks on these characters' faces, they are very much beautiful on the inside. And I kind of do feel, if I can actually go back to my review here for it, The Maker is a cozy slice of life artistry tension given only so much time. I feel this short was made for artists and how they feel about the craft in general. It reminds us that we only have so much time, so make do with the best as you can. And I think that's, when finding these movie recommendations for you guys, and I found this, I was very like I had to know more. I had to sit there and see more from this company, and I actually found out that this film company who does shorts they also do novels and other, things that feed into their stories. So there's actually a sequel to this. And I don't know if it carries on with this specific character, but it asks another question from the short of what we see in the maker before this. What we I cut too soon. What we see um in the maker that had created this maker, that obviously he worked and he put the time in to create and do his job. So what happens when the maker doesn't do their job? And again, they only have so much time to live to do this, and it creates an imbalance uh that essentially they have to fix that imbalance. And I really liked that, and I was like, you know what, that's interesting. I got to read a little snippet of the story, found it on Google Books, and thankfully I have enough through my Google rewards thing that I actually do plan to sit there and buy this. It's I have never felt so drawn to a story just by seeing a short and then find out, hey, if you like this world, guess what? We have a sequel. It's in book form. Like, as much as I am a cinephile and I love my TV shows and my movies, especially my classic silent cinema, um, I love books. And so I felt like these creators were definitely sit there and speaking something to me. So definitely sit there and go check it out. The Maker. Uh, uh, Next Thursday, my movie recommendation video for that will actually sit there and drop for the shorts and everything for social media. And then our final short for the month and everything, it's actually our longest. And I'm kind of glad that I left it as long as, because I think it's like a 20-minute short. So it's practically about the same as what mine is. If you guys haven't checked out the channel, you can find it somewhere on here. I think I have it. It's like, it is practically my most recommended video, right next to some of the other new stuff that I have dropped this year. But Tale of the Death, the Organ Grinder, I definitely feel like for all my Gothic cinema lovers, if the other two films were not for you, this one is it. It's very eerie. It's very sinister. Absolutely love it. I really need to quit exiting out of things that I need to go back to. The director of this is a Russian filmmaker by the name of Philip Yuryev. Yuryev. Sorry if I butchered that, but this came out back in 2021, so this is about 4 years old. And the story essentially is about an illusionist who comes into the shabby tavern, and he starts playing, his music. And it does something to the people of the tavern, who are captivated by this music from this organ grinder. And it leaves you with some very haunting visuals. I really want to see more of this world. I really do hope maybe someday that this filmmaker gets the funds to make another Gothic story in a feature-length style, because this was awesome. If this was thrown onto Netflix or any of the socials, not socials, any of the streaming sites as part of an anthology, I think this would probably be one of the best anthologies ever. It doesn't chew the scenery too much, but it does it well enough for it. And again, it's wonderful. I don't want to ruin the ending to this because it's such an interesting twist ending. It's very dark, but I don't think you'll I don't think this is a short that, just by looking at the images here, I don't think you're going to be able to guess the ending to this. But the ending of it is actually astounding. I was like, what the hell? I ended up sending it to my buddy Steven, and he was like, whoa. He's like, I like this. And everything. I was like, right? It's great. It was wonderful. And I absolutely treasure films that can actually sit there and do this. I absolutely adore that. So switching over. We're about 30 minutes into this and everything. Ooh, I actually forgot to turn off that lower third. Everything. Hey, you can't be a professional streamer without hiccups. One of the things that I actually really do want to sit there and talk about today, because of course we've been talking about short films. We talked about the Sandman, we talked about the Maker, and we talked about or I pitched them. I pitched these ones to you for you guys to watch. Because watch them. They're wonderful pieces of art. Is that at the beginning I mentioned that it definitely feels like you have to be within a certain circle, or you have to know your ins and outs through the internet to know where to find these short films. And at the end of the stream, I'm not really expecting answers, because really I think what's more interesting are the questions than the answers for this. So one of the things that I really want to sit there and point out here, just as casual moviegoers, we obviously talk about our favorite films. I know this past Monday I did and everything. We talk about them. But the one thing that doesn't really sit there seem to be, you know, brought up is, well, what about your favorite short film? What is your favorite short film? You know, it doesn't have to be as of recently, but what was a short film that you remember watching? Um, was there any that you sat there and saw grow up? And the more that I think about it is that short films, and I don't think that this is something of recent. I mean, this has actually just been a thing, is that short films do not get the commercial wide advertisement as say films. Usually that tends to kind of depend on, you know, what the contents of it is. I was talking to a few friends earlier this week and talking about it and trying to figure it out. And you know, some of the things that I've like noticed is that if it's a short film, it always sit there seems to be horror based or sci-fi based. If it's a drama or a comedy, I don't think people really care about it. I don't really believe that per se. Maybe that's just the friends group and everything. That to them, it's like, oh well, if it's sci-fi, I love sci-fi, so I will give this a try. If it's horror, I will give that a try. But if you look at a short film as just a straight drama, maybe the rise of demands or the peak of interest would not be, because I don't know, maybe genre filmmaking just thrives in this medium. Um, and again, I don't expect to sit there and answer any of these questions, but I would like to sit there and hear your thoughts and everything, rather if you're watching it live or you're watching, you know, the VOD and everything. I would like to sit there and hear your thoughts about this. What are your thoughts on short films? Drop them down in the comments below. I would love to sit there and read them whenever I get the chance. But that's one thing that I mentioned. Like you don't see an advertisement on YouTube or on the TV or through the radio or any other forms of advertisement. You don't really sit there and see advertisements for short films unless they are playing at a film festival, or quite honestly, maybe you're following a friend that is a filmmaker and they are trying to get the word out. Hey, look, we created this wonderful little piece and everything. Maybe it's a concept short film for them to make their feature length short their feature length film. God, words are immediately hard. Let's take a breather. I know I talk fast. I apologize. When I talk about what I love and you know, cherish and everything, I do tend to speed it up. So if you also have to slow down the video, that by all means, I don't mind. But um one thing that makes me sit there and think of is the movie Lights Out. It made really good headway in the attention it seeked because it was a short film, but it was also a concept trailer, because or not trailer, it was a concept short film because they planned to um they planned to make this into a movie, from my understanding. Now, if I am incorrect, definitely sit there and correct me. But producers saw it. They saw the buzz behind it, because again, Lights Out had one hell of a really good jump scare. They had a very good build up of this person turning light on, light off, and there's an individual when the lights are off and everything. And then the person decides to sleep with the lights on. They hear something weird, and we see a disturbing creation right then and there. I like short films. I like the short film Other Side of the Box. That's a scary one. Nice and everything. I am gonna have to sit there and check that one out. Other Side of the Box. I'm gonna have to remember that after the show to write that down and go check that out. I actually have another short film that's sitting in my watch later list that is it's an animated I believe it's, yeah, I believe it's stop motion animated. I have so much on my watch list that I need to get to. I'm trying to freaking figure out what the hell it's called real quick for you guys. Uh, oh, I can't actually even freaking say the name of it because it's such a super long word. Antediluvian. Antediluvian. That's something maybe I'm gonna have to cover later and just figure out, for one, how to properly say the title for it. But I have one that's like I thought it was like super interesting, and I've seen a couple of other interesting filmmakers that stream on Twitch and everything. I've seen their shorts, and like they are absolutely amazing and everything. And it's kind of sad that we don't acknowledge these. And I was talking about Lights Out. So yeah, they went and they got the movie. I enjoyed the short more than I enjoyed the film, but I think that's just because I think the film kind of overplayed the simple setup and jump scare routine. Like they just did it a lot. Like that's kind of like its thing. And the first time, wow, gets you. Second time, oh, that was fun. Third time, fourth, five, you guys get the gist of it. You get tired of of it, and I'm not shitting on anything, but sometimes I think short films need to stay short films, and not everything needs to be turned into a movie and everything. Believe me, a lot of the films that I have seen modern day, I actually truly believe that they shouldn't even have gone into production. I won't say names and everything, but like I'm just like over here, it's like, how did that get made? I want to know who thought that film should be made. But also too, on the opposite end of that spectrum, I freaking love that a film like Sharknado got made. And I love the memes that they make of it, is that someone somewhere in a boardroom sat there and thought, you know what? We should make a movie where there is a tornado with sharks in it and call it Sharknado. Because sometimes weird thoughts like that, they sell. They actually sell. If done right, if done right. But I want to move on to another story, or not another story, another question that I have for you guys. And I'm hopefully not going too fast and everything, because like I only have so much and everything for question wise. Is so obviously in today's world, for content creators, for anyone that creates for the internet, for YouTube, for whatever, the socials, obviously short form content is the best content because it gets your thoughts and ideas out really really quickly. It cuts a lot of the BS out and everything, and it gives you just the strict information that you need to know to pique your interest into the topic at hand. Short form content, that could be somewhere between a 30-second clip to a minute and a half and everything. I used to kind of sit there and look at short form content as anything that's less than 5 minutes. Maybe that's still the thing, but I kind of feel like in today's age, no, if you don't have them hooked by the first few frames, or the first couple of frames and everything, if you don't have this, that, or the other, to them, they look at it as like, well, I'm not interested. Why? Because it's not flashy. It's not gathering their attention. I think that that's something we should not be feeding more into. Personally, I really don't. I like slow burn. I like to listen to long videos, even if maybe I think that maybe about 10 minutes or so could be cut out of the video. I don't care. I like to sit down and listen to someone talk about their passions. Now it's one thing if like they're dancing around one topic and they're doing 10 minutes and I don't really feel like I'm getting anywhere with it. It's like, okay, get to the point. Get to the point. You can tell me all the examples, but give me the point first and then give me the examples, because it doesn't make sense. And I am just as much guilty of doing the same thing. As sometimes I will drop examples first and then I'll try to do the explanation. And that's generally when the people are like, oh, I get you now. I kind of really wish you led with that first before you started leading with the examples. It happens. We're learning. We're human. But in today's world of social media and the pressure to make short form content, why are short films not talked about? And again, that goes to the whole thing. It's you don't really hear too much about short films anymore. uh there are some things that I do want to sit there, I will talk about here in a bit, once we pass through this, so maybe some of the reasons why short films are not looked at as an art form almost anymore, whatsoever. um and it kind of hurts me a little bit, because then it kind of makes it seem like, well, then you're not really making the short film for the love of creation, you're making it for something else. um Again, more on that later. That's your foreshadowing, folks. That's your foreshadowing. But one thing that I've noticed, I don't see too many short films on the socials, but what I will sit there and see are clips of actual feature films being shown. And sometimes it'll be, I don't know, maybe like 45 seconds to a minute, maybe 2 minutes. It depends. Really, to me, it doesn't matter the length, but either way, it's a clip. And I'll see them all over TikTok, YouTube, uh, Facebook. Yes, I own a Facebook. I'm fucking old. Um, Instagram, all the socials. It does not matter. It does not discriminate any socials. You'll see the film on there, and I see it at least 10 freaking times. Is the like, oh wow, like, they just keep uploading the clips of this movie. I don't even have to watch the movie anymore. I can just watch the clips and piece together what the movie's about. And that like I sat there and thought that I was just seeing things, that I was seeing something that I just wanted to see. But the more that I do look at it, and I have done extensive investigation through TikTok, Facebook, and everything, I always see those comments. And I used to almost sit there and think those were just bot accounts. Like, oh, did someone just put this bot account just to put this here? Because it seems to be always a statement made. And the more I think about it, it's like, yeah, I'll always sit there and see a movie clip, or I'll see a stand-up clip, and it's all like, oh, okay. It's like, sometimes it's all out of context. So I'm like, well, what's the context you want to use in this? Because sometimes I know what that stand up is, and it's always generally George Carlin. I know what he's talking about, but someone will clip something out of context and then just put it out there. And so it's like, all right, well, then what's the context in which you want to talk about this? Why did you post this? Like, there's really nothing in your captions. And then people are commenting, oh, Carlin's right. Yeah, one of the last good ones. And it's like, yeah, okay, you expect those comments, but why did you publish it? Whereas for a short film, if you sit there and you publish it online, there's numerous, I think, meanings that a person can sit there and do that for, of this. Hey, I found this. I think you guys should go see it. Recommendation. There we go again. I really need to change it that I am not a movie reviewer. I am a movie recommendator. Is that a word? Is that even a word? I don't know. I don't feel like Googling that right now, because I feel like that'll lead me down a Google rabbit hole and we'll never get out of here. But yeah, like I would, I would like, here, I just thought about it. I would like to be the on the go blockbuster employee that can at least sit there and try to help you figure out what movie you want for the night. I think that's how I like to sit there and see myself. I love movies so much. They've been a big part of my life, right next to books and everything. But I think in movies, it's all like, you need a movie to watch. What are you in the mood for? I'll figure it out. Or if you need a movie to be found, generally most people have also used before that. It's like, hey, I can't find this film. They'll describe it to me. Sometimes it's not the best. And I was like, God, that's so vague. And they're like, I know. I was like, well, no wonder you didn't find it. It's like, and you're expecting me to open up Encyclopedia Gothic to do that. But sometimes I've even amazed myself, and I've done that. But social media, you figure there are people on there that don't just post just to post brain rot. There are people out there posting stories. There is, and so that makes me ask, well, do those consider short films? You know, and all what it really could just be is just someone telling their story with B-roll footage. Do we count that as a short film? Do we do that? Um, One thing, I love Dungeons and Dragons. Hopefully one day I will join a campaign, but I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I love sitting there and seeing when people animate like something from Critical Role or Legends to Adventures. And there's this whole animation. Legends of Adventures are actually really, really great, especially with the Dimwood stuff. God, I love those characters. But someone goes through, animates it, and they even go as far as whatever, I guess, whomever has either been hitting the desk because they're doing their best not to laugh too loud, they'll go as far as include that, even that piece of audio, and they'll include that in a whole different animation that makes the story even more funnier. So are those short films as well? I mean, it is a short film in the sense that it is telling a a serialized story. It is recording what these players who are already doing, and they just put it more into something maybe that we can digest as film. So do those kind of short films and everything. There are people that, again, they do animations, they doodle, and they just talk about their life. And generally there is always a story with it. At least a lot of the good ones. There's always a story to be told. Isn't that just storytelling? And since they put it in a video format, yeah, it's not film, it's digital. It's still, I'm not going to give you shit on that. I'm not. I'm just not. But is that a short film? So what now constitutes as a short film now? I think a lot of people look at it as the films that I just showed you, um, as well as something that is probably made professional. That is considered a short film, but maybe the animation from the Legends of Adventures and Critical Role are not short films. They are just short form content. So I would actually like to sit there and know your thoughts on that too. Is What are your thoughts? What constitutes as a short film? To me, a short film is anything under 40 minutes that tells a story. Or, there's even some really, really good short films. Maybe they don't tell a story, but they tell a situation and how that one character handles the situation. I think it's still a story regardless, but it's not a story in which beginning, middle, and end. It's more of situation. What did they do? What is the consequence? The end. You get in, you get out. At least that's what I was trained in. That's what I was trained in my teachings over at the Art Institute of Houston. That's kind of what I was taught. And funny enough, I did not want to do a short film. I wanted to actually do a feature film because another filmmaker that went there, we call him Manny. So sorry, Manny, if I forgot your last name. I apologize. But he did a feature length film as his graduate thesis. And I really wanted to do that. I wanted to do that as a Gothic thing, but I was told, nope, it's got to be a short film because X, Y, and Z. And it's like, okay, welcome in, X Gibson. How are you doing? So I wanted to do that, but I was told no. But the more that I also wrote it, it almost felt like maybe it was an anthology story used in some television. So I kind of almost made myself think, am I a television writer? I'm not. I'm really not. I love serialized storytelling, but please do not make me write 6 episodes of a series. It's hard getting through a first draft as it is. And that is being honest and everything. But that is something that I do want to ask. What constitutes as a short film, and why don't we see short films in social media platforms? We'll see the advertisements. We'll see a little cut trailer, but we won't see the actual film. That's usually when you got to go here to YouTube, or you got to go to I think it's Vimeo. Yes, Vimeo. Vimeo is another place that people drop their short films, or outside of the internet, but not always, because there are some that are digital. But film festivals. Usually that's where you'll go see them. You'll go find film festivals, and that's where you'll see them. You'll see them, and you'll see feature films, and you'll see all the filmmakers, yap about, share their films, try to make connections, also have a good time just doing what they're doing. At least I hope people who do that, they go there to have a good time. But yeah, another thing that I was thinking about short films was maybe the reason we don't see them is because like a screenplay is a currency to a screenwriter, a short film is almost in a sense currency to a director, to show to a producer and studio heads that, hey, I can get the job done on very low budget, if even no budget whatsoever, that you can trust me with the money you have given me and my my film studio, that we can do the job and make the feature film because we did it here on this small, on this smaller stage, which is fair. I think that's fair, to also look at it, but I feel like looking at it strictly as currency, that just doesn't feel good. That just kind of feels like you're not doing it for the love of the craft. You're doing it for a future job. But at the professional, your whole point is to make a good film. So therefore, you can get more jobs. It makes sense. Maybe you can have both bites of the apple. I don't know. Again, I'm stating I don't feel like all of this is supposed to just deliver answers. It's just to deliver more questions to have us think. And that's what I want to sit there. And I think that was what my purpose here tonight is. It's not to sit there and give you guys answers. It's just maybe think about this. What constitutes a short film? Why don't we talk about short films in the same vein as we do feature films? Why can't we find them so easily? One thing I did thought of while I was thinking about this is that I think one way and another here, at least in the West, in the West side of the world, Pixar used to do shorts, and they used to include them in the DVD. I'm pretty sure also VHS. I think they were at the end of the VHS tape though. But all those Pixar shorts that we grew up watching when we were children. Maybe not too much for people born before maybe the mid 80s, but if you sat there and you watched like Toy Story, you had that one short with the old man in the park that is playing chess by himself. Like, come on, we all know that short. If anyone born past 2000 probably hasn't seen it, well, you need to get on Disney Plus. You'll fucking find it. Because the great thing about Disney Plus is a lot of the shorts that used to either be run in theaters back then. Yeah, the Pixar guy playing, yeah, and then you've always seen that guy pop up in other movies, which is a good thing. What I like about the short films is that there's actually some type of connection. Maybe not a continuity. I'm not going to go that far. I'm not going down that deep of a rabbit hole, but there is some type of either nod or like a, hey, you guys remember that short that you guys all Googled as a kid? There's that nice nod. That's my favorite short. There's another short. It's not done, I believe, by Pixar, but it's done by... Oh my God, I don't know why I'm thinking of Blue Sky. It's not Blue Sky. Blue Sky is a social media platform. But the short is about this big bird. It's like all these little tiny birds, and they cheep. And, they're just minding their business. And then there's this big bird that is trying to join them on the power lines. And the birds are like, who the hell is this guy talking to? And the big bird just wants to be in a group. He wants to feel welcomed. He wants to communicate. He wants to be with the group. But the little birds bully him to the point that they're trying to peck his little claws off of the power line. And, the other birds are like cheering for it. Like, yeah, peck, or fall. It's not really expressed. And yeah, you know exactly which one I mean, Tizzy. And it's funny because throughout all this, you feel so bad. And the bird's like, oh. And then, when he finally lets go, that line was dragged all the way down to the ground. He's safe. They're all shot up and they're all naked. And it makes you laugh. It's like, wow, these people have treated him so poorly. And now it's bit him back in the butt. But as a child, you kind of look at that and you can't help but giggle. It's funny, but I think that's something memorable. I mean, I feel like that's memorable. It's like I'm able to remember these that were that came out like in either the late 90s or the early 2000s. And I know that they still do some of these and everything because God, it's probably been maybe 5 years, but you had Bao, that little nice short film, I guess you would call it claymation. I think it was just more just animation or stop motion, but it was like this woman has this little dumpling and she takes care of it like it's her child because it is her way of grieving, but also living with the fact that her child is growing up. Does not do the whole no longer like, I want hugs and love from mom. The kid gets caught up in its own world. But the moment that the dumpling itself has grown up and wants to do these other things. The mother's refusing to do that. But at the end, the boy does come back much older. And even though the mother is heartbroken, the son is like, well, I'm still here, mom. I just had to go away to grow up. And the mother was still just kind of grieving with, she doesn't have her baby no more. Her baby's growing up. It's that thing that all parents go through. That's something so memorable. That I believe that I think that was a 2020, if not maybe a late 2010 short. It's memorable, you know? So maybe why aren't we getting more of those? Also, too, do TV shows constitute as a short film? Maybe that's my last thought on this, because we got about 5 more minutes left here, folks. Does a TV show constitute as a short film? I mean, unless it's like an hour, or what's supposed to be quote unquote an hour long drama. Really, those are about 45 minutes. But if we're looking at the streaming service, that could be 45 to 50 to actually just going to, like, maybe an hour and a half or an hour and 8, Stranger Things time. It's kind of weird. But they have no limit. But for television, if you look at a half-hour animated show or a half-hour sitcom or a half-hour whatever, it's all under 40 minutes. Does that constitute as a short film? It's just aired on TV and possibly syndicated if they made enough episodes to award themselves syndication rights. Or maybe that's not the right quote, but to earn them to syndication. I think syndication rights, more or less, that is if they do reach a certain episode goal, that they are able to do that. But these are just questions I want to leave you guys with today. What constitutes a short film? Why don't we see them on social media? I know I'm repeating myself, but I know that other people kind of come in here. So I want to sit there and let them know the question. That's about it. I do want to introduce a new segment. I think what we need to consider, like, is it a TV show with episodes that could stand alone? Or is it a TV show with short episodes but a bigger storyline? That's another good idea, Tizzy. So is it like The Twilight Zone? Are we looking at an anthology series? So can we call those a collection of short films just underneath, one header, which constitutes it also to a TV show? Or are we looking at maybe a show like Roseanne? Probably not really the first one to bring up, but Cheers, Frasier. I can't remember Frasier. I think Frasier was a half-hour sitcom. I don't think it was an hour. Maybe the newer season became an hour, but yeah, do those constitute that's I like that way of thinking too, Tizzy. That works as well. Again, new segment that I am possibly going to sit there and introduce next week. I like to call it homework, but don't worry, it's not like I'm not asking you to write a paper for me, but movies. So I guess, you know what? We can start that today. Homework. Go watch a short film. And when we come back on Monday, if you're able to make it, or if you're not, if you're able just to sit there and come here at the bottom and just drop your homework assignment. Tell me, what short film did you go watch this weekend? What did you watch? Did you go out? Did you find something? Did you love it? Did you not love it? Give me the deets on that. I would love to hear that. It's homework. It's not really much. Short films, believe it or not, trust me, I do not believe that there is ever a short film that has been 30 minutes long. I think Tale of the Death is probably the longest short film I think I've ever seen, right next to mine. But I definitely know most short films probably at a average length are probably somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes. But yeah, a little bit far-fetched, but what about making a short movie based on a video game? I mean, most movies based on games aren't really working. Could a short film work better? You know what? I actually had a really good idea, Tizzy. And this was before the Fallout TV show came out. I had the idea that I really wanted to do a short film that just had a Survivor of the Wasteland. I couldn't really tell if I really wanted it in the Fallout 4 setting or maybe the New Vegas setting, but that they have come across while just making a makeshift camp at night, that they have came across a Deathclaw. And I really wanted to do that. I think that would constitute, I think when it comes to short films like that, and there are fan films, but I think fan films are a little bit, it's kind of like fan films and fan fiction, short films, short stories. They're kind of like their own thing. But yeah, I would really have liked to sat there and do a Fallout short film, but that would be a fan film as well, um, where someone is trying to survive a night with a death claw. You know, I have thought about that. I think maybe some video games, depending on how rich the lore is and how vast the world is, uh, I also think depending on the writer who handles it, if they actually care and they are very passionate about the actual like project, the IP. Um, there's so many different variables though that go into that. I wouldn't sit there and say a short film would work out better for an adaptation of a video game. Um, but if you did an anthology series like the Twilight Zone and placed it in the Borderlands world, or placed it in the Assassin's Creed world, or Fallout, anything. I mean, hell, you could technically do a short film in the Metal Gear Solid universe. You could find something to tell a story in those universes, I believe. I think you can possibly do that. And then package it together as a TV show. You know? But I think also too, in today's television land, a lot of people like to have episodes that have connected storylines. They like serialized storytelling. And I think serialized storytelling is both at its best and at its worst right now. Because there are some shows, they are just willing to stretch out a story just to get the episodes, you know, payment, whatever. You want to get paid for as many scripts as you've written. Or, you know, you want to get as many, you know, Writers Guild guys on a show. And to me, I'll look at this as either, well, this should have been just a movie, or this should not have been this many episodes long. And my answer to that is the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I love Star Wars, and I love that Kenobi series because we finally got Ian McGregor back. But I felt like there were some things they could have removed. I personally, for me, I felt. But you know what? There could have been someone that thought, hey, that was the perfect number of episodes. That was really enjoyable. I like that. And that is fine. Film is subjective. It is a subjective art form, a subjective collaborative art form. And we can't forget that. But folks, we are going to sit there and leave you guys today and everything. I gave you guys your homework. Watch a short film. Report back to me on Monday. What are we going to talk about Monday? I have no clue because I haven't thought that far ahead. But I will be working tomorrow on trying to figure out what is what's next week's shows are going to be. I really enjoyed doing this. This is wrapping up the first week of doing this, moving over to YouTube. It's fun. Yeah, you guys only got me for an hour, but you know what? I do my best to make that hour very much worth it to be with you guys. I love you guys so freaking much. You guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you guys all on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.